Please put your hands together for Diana.
Hi everyone, good afternoon, and thanks for joining us on this gloriously sunny day in London. Snappy title, thank you for introducing it, Sam. We're going to be exploring that in some detail over the next 15 minutes. My name's Diana Abebrese, and I'm the Global Retail Media Lead at Empathy Lab by EPAM. I'm guessing that most of you have never heard of Empathy Lab or EPAM, so just a couple of minutes to talk about who we are. EPAM is a large technology consultancy. We're a global business in 55 countries, and we have about 62,000 employees. The vast majority of them are engineers. We launched Empathy Lab by EPAM as a brand earlier this year to help marketing leaders understand how to harness technology and AI and connect better with their customers at scale. We do that through a combination of our AI and engineering expertise and the human element, which is essentially domain experts, business consultants, and creativity. In terms of what we're going to talk about today, we're going to look at three main things. So firstly, we're hearing a lot about retail media. I believe the panel that follows this is called Is Retail Media the Next Big Thing Since Social Media? So it's a big topic. Why are we talking about it? What's the promise? Then we're going to talk a little bit about why we're not delivering on that. So I've been in retail media for 10 years. We've been talking about the promise for that long, and we still see brands and retailers being frustrated and not being able to deliver on that promise. And then finally, we're looking at how AI is finally allowing us to solve this with some examples of how we're doing that at Empathy Lab. So first of all, let's talk about retail media. It's big business for retailers. Why? Well, we know that a mature retailer generates about 1 to 2% of its e-commerce revenues in retail media. We know that because people like Walmart very publicly talk about how much money they're making from that. So they made $4.4 billion last year, which was up 27% year on year. And that's washing at a 70% profit margin, which if people understand retailers know that most of their product sales are a much, much lower profit margin than that. The market's growing, so it was put at 150 billion a couple of years ago, at 22% rise by eMarketer. There's about 200 retail media networks live globally at the moment. That number changes every month as more and more retailers launch retail media networks. It's not just retailers that are excited about retail media, it's brands as well. So we can see that investment into retail media is growing sharply year over year. This is a 2023 number. I know the 2024 number peaked even more. And that about $1 in $7 of media investment from brands goes into retail media. Brands are now looking at creating their own dedicated teams. So according to Sky, the State of Retail Media in 2024, that was about 28% of CPGs were creating their own retail media teams, and 30% were investing in training and upskilling their teams to drive up their expertise about retail media. And it's not just brands, agencies are absolutely getting involved too. So all of the big holdcos these days are creating their own retail media teams, and they're investing in technology. So for example, Publicis bought Epsilon and CitrusAd, but they're also buying retail media agencies. Again, Publicis bought Mars United Commerce, but it's not just Publicis, all of the agencies are doing that. So it's this big business across the whole ecosystem of media. Why is that? So the promise is really clear. It's a combination of retailers sitting on lots and lots of very valuable first-party data. And in this world where we're looking for cookieless ID solutions, this is really, really compelling. It allows you to use that data to drive insights around what's your strategy, how do you build your audiences predictively and descriptively, and then how do you define the right message in CTA. And then you can activate that campaign across many, many different channels. So owned and operated, so at point of purchase, on-site and in-store, but also looking at off-site and external media and connected TV. And that allows you to build a proper full funnel campaign. And then because you've got the data and you can follow the customer right through exposure to the ad all the way through to point of sale, you can start to build up attribution models, both single and multi-touch, and then use that iROAS to calculate iROAS to then define what you're doing in the future. So it's a really, really compelling promise. And it's compelling for both brands and retailers. This is an IAB Europe survey, Attitudes to Retail Media from last year. And we can see that brands are really excited about this. And the access to retailer first-party data is the thing that's most compelling, followed by reaching shoppers at point of sale and closed-loop attribution. For retailers, it's a little bit simpler. It's a really great way for them to make high profit revenue. So that's the big thing for them. So very compelling. The promise is obvious. It sounds great. But the reality is, despite talking about it for maybe 10 years or so, we're still not there yet. And we constantly hear from retailers, from brands, from agencies, how difficult it is to get this right. So let's look a little bit about what's stopping us from doing that. So from a retailer perspective, this is really, really difficult. A retailer is trying to activate campaigns across multiple channels. They have to work with lots of different people within their organisation to get one campaign live, and they're still using email and Excel as their business process, typical business process platforms. Because they need to talk to and get buy-in from lots and lots of different people, it takes them a long time to get decisions, to get approval. Retailers love Retail Media Network when it means they receive a check every quarter that they can just put onto their bottom line. At the point where Retail Media Networks are asking retailers to invest in technology, invest in people, that becomes more difficult because clearly retailers want to sell products to their customers. They're not really into building a media business. So there's still a lot of work involved in getting retailers to invest and take it seriously. They have a lot of data. We've talked about the data that retailers sit on, but it sits in lots of different places, on lots of different platforms. And pulling together a retail media proposition requires you to work with lots of different platforms depending on which channel. So getting that all into one place and streamlining the ability to deliver a campaign across multiple technology platforms and data sources is difficult. And then finally, retailers need to have a very unique skill set. So people that understand retail and people that understand media. And that's still a little bit of a unicorn. So getting the right people in place and getting the right people to power and drive your retail media network for retailers is still a challenge. That clearly has a knock-on effect for brands and agencies. Their challenge is how can we build retail media campaigns across multiple retailers or even media campaigns across multiple channels and platforms. The fact that they still have to go to individual retailers to access their inventory and access their data makes it difficult to do this at scale. IAB is driving a lot of standardization. They're doing a lot of work around getting standards in place around measurement, formats, proposition, targeting, but we're still not there. Every retailer still does things slightly differently. They're not necessarily transparent in how they do their measurement. So having it all in one place and standardized so that you can compare apples with apples is a challenge. As we've talked about data and technology being fragmented, it's even more so for brands because the more retailers they work with, the more fragmentation there is. And despite the promise of iROAS, incrementality, multi-touch attribution, it's still not giving brands what they need in order to justify including retail media networks on their plans. So it's not there yet. But the good news is that technology is starting to move in the right direction, and not just starting slowly, it's moving quickly. I'm going to talk about AI next, as you can imagine. Here's just a few headlines that I've pulled over the last few months around how AI is entering the retail media arena. What we're seeing is last year was absolutely the year of the POC. So there was lots of experimentation, lots of testing in retail media to try out AI, and that was coming from the retailers, it was coming from the advertisers, the agencies, and also the technology vendors. 2025 is absolutely the year of production. So we're seeing rollouts of great solutions across the ecosystem. And clearly at Empathy Lab, we've been doing the same. So we've been building solutions for media businesses, both retail and agencies. Thank you. To dive that. So what's the anatomy of what we're doing? First of all, it's having an underlying data set, getting all that data in one place within the advertiser's environment. Then applying machine learning models to make sense of that data, using agents to do those individual tasks to reduce the complexity, and then through API integrations, both public and custom, activating those campaigns. And we're doing that across the full campaign cycle. So from audience building through to media planning, through to creative ad generation and optimization and yield management. I want to just dig a little deeper into media planning because we're running a lot of media planning solutions for both advertisers and for retailers. So we've talked about the underlying data set. That involves us pulling data from multiple different sources: campaign, customer, commercial, brand, and competitor. Then looking at machine learning models, so using predictive analytics, segmentation models, and time series analysis to pull together effective media planning rationales and strategies. Then we're using agents to do the work that would generally involve lots of people over quite a long time to actually pull together a media plan. So define and manage the query, collect the data, create the budgets, and then build the visualization of the media planning. And then we're pushing those media plans once they're approved into activation panels. I've got a very short video of an example of what we're doing. I haven't got time to demo, or I'm not brave enough to demo as well, but if you'd like a demo, just contact me through LinkedIn and we'll arrange a demo. But an example of how we're combining both conversational Gen AI and LLMs with visualization to provide you with a really nice interface for media planning. What we've seen in market when we've rolled these out, and given that we are still at the very early days of going into production, we're seeing an improvement of 80% in productivity because we're reducing the operational complexity, we're reducing the time it takes to get these media plans live. We're also seeing an increase of about 17% in performance of campaigns. Now, bear in mind, we're using machine learning, so we can only assume that that's going to get larger in terms of improvement in performance. And clearly, we're building a foundation that allows you to scale the number of campaigns you sell or the number of campaigns you plan and buy at scale. So I only had 5 minutes. I think I probably rushed through the last few minutes because of this, but the key takeaways, we can see that agentic Gen AI and machine learning is a powerful combination to overcome some of those challenges that we've seen in retail media. 2025 is the year of production, no longer about POC. So if you're not applying this at scale in 2025, it's probably time to think about doing so because you're a bit behind. It can absolutely help you unlock the full potential, that full promise of retail media. And it can do that at scale, which in itself will then drive transformational value for your business. And that's it. Thank you very much. Would love to connect with anyone.